We'll be going over Form SSA-2-BK. This is the application for Social Security benefits based on your spouse's earning record. The official title being Application for Wife's or Husband's Insurance Benefits. So you can apply for spousal benefits online or through the Social Security Administration office in person. And this is an application for either a current spouse or for applying for benefits based on an ex-spouse's history, which you can do as long as your marriage met certain criteria, primarily that your marriage lasted 10 years or longer and that spouse's earnings history happens to be the most beneficial one for your situation. Generally, if you have multiple marriages and you're eligible to claim on more than one earnings history, the Social Security Administration will help you select the one that results in the biggest payment. There's a couple of administrative items that we should go over before we get into the form itself, namely documents that the Social Security Administration may ask you to provide. So if you go in person to the SSA office, then you may need to provide things such as your birth certificate or other proof of birth, proof of citizenship, or lawful alien status if you're not a U.S. citizen, military discharge paperwork if you served in the military on active duty prior to 1968, forms W-2 or self-employment tax returns for the past year. If you're divorced and filing on your ex-spouse's record, a copy of the final divorce decree, and if you're filing on a current spouse's record, then your marriage certificate. And if you're filing online, then you will need to submit these the original versions of this of these requested documents. And if you're applying in person, you can submit copies, but you should bring the originals of each of those documents to the Social Security office. There's also a pretty long list of questions that the Social Security Administration will ask you. You can find a complete list of those questions on the SSA website, but since we'll be going over these questions in this form walkthrough, I'm not going to repeat them for you. So with those administrative items in mind, there's one last thing I'll briefly show you because there's a reference to the guide, How Work Affects Your Benefits. And this is an important topic to bring up specifically because we might start talking about making an application when you're still younger than full retirement age. And for people born in 1960 or later, the full retirement age is 67. And if you were born before that, it might be slightly earlier than 67. You'll have to find the full retirement age for your year of birth on the Social Security website. But if you file for early benefits, then you may be the Social Security Administration may withhold some of your benefits depending on your income if you earn over a certain threshold, and we'll cover that momentarily. So first, we'll start at the top of the application. Just to be clear, this is an application for all benefits under Title II, which is in Title 18. Those are the two parts of the Social Security Act that allow you to apply for Social Security benefits. And if you've already completed an application for your own retirement benefits, then you can submit this as a supplemental so that you would only need to complete the circled items, which are pretty evident on the form itself. Everyone else must complete the entire form, so we're going to proceed through this walkthrough as if we're completing the entire form. So in line 1A, you would print the name of the wage earner, and then that person's social security number. And then right below that, you'll print your name and your social security number. And then if you're completing this in English, you can skip line 3. If you're completing this in Spanish, please know that there is a Spanish version of this form that might be a little bit more user-friendly, which you can find on the Social Security website. But either way, you can enter your preferred language if you so choose. On line 4, you'll enter your birthday. And then city and state. And then you'll answer questions about whether or not you're a U.S. citizen. If you select yes, you can go directly to line 6. If you select no, then 5B asks you if you're a lawfully present alien. And if the answer to that is no, then you'll go to line 6. If the answer is yes, then you'll have to enter when you were lawfully admitted to the United States. If you have a different name on your birth certificate from what you entered in line 2A as your own name, then you'll enter that here. So Mary Smith being married to John Smith, maybe she was born Mary J. Brown. And then if you've used any other languages or names, you would select yes, enter the other names that you've used. If not, then you'll go directly to line item 7. Item 7, if you've used other social security numbers, you'll annotate yes, you'll enter whichever ones you've used in the past. In line 8, you'll start answering work-related questions. So whether or not you've been unable to work in the past 14 months because of illnesses, injuries, or conditions. If you've been able to work, then you would select no. If you have had injuries or illnesses, then you would enter that in here. Right, so like back surgery. Question 9, did either you or your spouse work in the railroad industry for at least 5 years? Do you have Social Security credits in another country? Or you can just select no. 11A asks whether or not you're entitled to, or if you expect to be entitled to, a pension. So if you retire from the U.S. military, then you can select this, and you would say, right? So this would be what someone writes if they're retired U.S. military and they retired in 2017 from the military. If this is not applicable to you, then you can simply select no and go on to question 12. Before question 12, you'll see kind of big bold letters, basically your agreement to notify the Social Security Administration if you become entitled to a pension, an annuity, or a lump sum payment based on your employment that wasn't covered by Social Security, or if your pension or annuity amount changes or stops. In line 12, you'll start entering information about your marriage to the worker. So you'll see that there's another entry for your spouse. So if you married the person more than once, you'll have to enter some additional information in the remarks section, but you'll fill all this out. Since the marriage isn't ended, you'll just leave that blank. marriage was performed by a clergyman or a public official. If not, then you'll have to explain how that marriage was performed. Date of birth for your spouse. And then if your spouse was deceased, then you'll give that date. Social security number. Now, if you remarried after the divorce from a different worker, then, so if this up here was ended and then you remarried, then you would have to completely fill this out. So let's just imagine that you got remarried the day after your divorce, and you got married in anywhere South Dakota. Then you would fill this out in an identical manner. And then 12C is another placeholder if you needed to use space for an additional marriage, as long as you're not repeating either of the two marriages in 12A or 12B. And if you don't have any, then you can write none. But if you did get remarried to the person, then instead of re-entering their information here, you would go into the remarks page on section on page 5. So any additional explanations, you'll need to go here and type them in, and you can go on to page 6 if you need more space. So once you've completed all the marriage information, then question 13 asks about whether or not a dependent child has lived with you for the past 13 months, specifically an unmarried child of the worker, the person whose earnings you're claiming. It could be a stepchild, could be an adopted child, or it could be a dependent grandchild to include a step grandchild, as long as that person is under 16 or disabled. If that person has lived with you for any of the past 13 months, then you would enter that person's name, and then if they lived with you for all 13 months, you would enter all. If not, then you would just enter the number of months, right? Select yes or no depending on what applies. Let's imagine that you have, so in line 14 is going to ask about your recent earnings history. So for this year, last year, and the year before last. So let's just say that you picked up a part-time job at Kohl's in 2021, and you're still working there. So if you've had more than one employer, then you would list all the employers with your most recent employer on top. So if you need more space, use the remarks section. How much were your earnings last year? So let's just imagine that this truly is a part-time job and your earnings were $12,000. The threshold that we were discussing in the how work affects your benefits threshold, there are two different thresholds. So if you are under the age of full retirement, so for people born in 1960 or later, that would be less than age 67, then you have an annual limit that applies to your situation of $21,240. And any amount that you earn above that, the Social Security Administration will deduct $1 for every $2 above that threshold that you earn. It's not a permanent deduction. The Social Security Administration will give that back to you in the form of an increased benefit when you after you've reached full retirement age. But the Social Security Administration does ask this question in the case that you're earning more than that threshold, then they need to know how much they can claw back. So in the document, how work affects your earnings, the monthly threshold is $1,770 in wages or self-employment. So if you did not earn more than this amount, then you would place an X in each box according to the month where you earned that amount or less. Now, at $12,000, you could claim that all the months that you worked that year fit that category. And the Social Security Administration's indication on this is that their definition is people who earn $1,770 or less per month, prorated to $21,240 per year, are considered retired for Social Security purposes. So you're going to answer how much your earnings were last year and then how much you expect your earnings to be this year. So let's say that you expect to earn $15,000 this year, and again you would enter 1770. You would say all, and then next year you for line 17 you only answer this question if you're filling out this application in the last 4 months of the current taxable year. So for most taxpayers, that would be September through December. If you're filing in, say, March or April, then you would not complete line 17. So if you're under full retirement age and you do not have an entitled child in your care, answer item 18. If you have reached FRA, full retirement age or older, or if you do have an entitled child in your care, then you would go to line item 19. Item 18 asks when you want your benefits to start. So you can select 3 options. A, you want benefits to start as soon as possible, and you will accept a reduction based on your age. So if you claim Social Security benefits at an age younger than full retirement age, then the Social Security Administration will give you a lower payout. So the amount of that reduction ends up being 0.2% for each month that you file early, or 8% per year. And so if you claim benefits at age 62, but you're not going to reach full retirement age until age 67, then you could be receiving 40% less in benefits over the course of your life. This is a permanent reduction. So be very careful about filing for early benefits. And then the opposite is true if you wait to claim beyond full retirement age, all the way up until age 70. And so for people whose full retirement age is 67, if you don't need the Social Security retirement right away, if you waited until age 70 to file for benefits, then you would get the full increase, 8% per year. So that would be 24% more. And again, this is for the rest of your life. If you select B, you're stating that you are at full retirement age or within 12 months of it, and you want your benefits to begin with the earliest month where there's no reduction. So this is basically telling the Social Security Administration, I'm pretty close to full retirement age. I want my benefits to start exactly at full retirement age. And then item C, you would select that if you had a specific date in mind of when you wanted your benefits to begin. So now item 19 has to do with Medicare, specifically if you're applying for Medicare. So if this claim is approved, this is the Medicare information right here, and you're still entitled to benefits at age 65, you are not eligible for automatic enrollment in Medicare Part B if you live in a foreign country or in Puerto Rico. But if you are filing this claim and you're entitled to benefits at age 65 or you're within 3 months, then this basically is an automatic application, right? So you would use this if you're filing on your spouse's benefits, and then at the same time you're eligible for Medicare. You can go ahead and just complete item 19, but only if you're within three months of turning age 65 or older. That's when it's recommended that you apply for Medicare. And then, of course, if you don't sign up for Medicare Part B and you don't have employer-sponsored service, when you eventually apply for Medicare Part B and you're not exempted, then you will have a late enrollment penalty. And again, this is a permanent penalty that does not go away. So be very mindful about when you apply for Medicare. The late enrollment penalty is 10% for each full year that you could have had it. So if you wait until your 66th birthday, then you would be paying 10% more in your monthly premium unnecessarily. So basically, two parts to this. Do you want to enroll in Medicare Part B? And then if you're within 2 months of being able to apply for Medicare, do you want to, if you're blind or disabled, do you want to file for supplemental security income, which is an additional stipend for people that qualify? So the remarks section, and again, on the very back, you're going to have a signature field, so you'll sign, you'll date, and then enter your telephone number. You'll enter your checking information from your financial institution. This is your bank's routing number, and then your checking or savings account number, and you can enroll in direct deposit. There are instructions that will apply if your direct deposit was refused, so be mindful. If you do not sign this form, most Social Security forms have witness signature blocks. So you can sign with an X in the signature form, and if that's the case, then you would have two signatures who personally know you and are able to list their address, witness your signature. Page 7 consists of a receipt for your Social Security claim. There are telephone numbers that you'll call either before you get your notice of award or afterwards if you need to discuss with the Social Security office, or if you have questions or disagreement. And then the rest of the back contains Privacy Act statement information that basically tells you that your information, how your information may be used, not for marketing purposes obviously, but it may be shared with people that aren't directly involved in filing your claim, specifically because the Social Security Administration is a federal agency. They may send this information to other agencies, and they may send it to other people that are not federal government employees, but they might be contractors performing work. So this is just a list of ways that your information may be shared with people in a direct relationship to processing your claim. According to the Paperwork Reduction Act statement, it should take about 11 minutes for you to be able to read the instructions and answer the questions. You should either send this or bring the completed form to your local office, so you can complete this and then just bring it to the office. And then on page 8 is a list of changes that you must notify the Social Security Administration for. So basically, if your citizenship changes, if your marital status changes, if your income changes, work changes, things of that nature, it doesn't necessarily mean that a change will happen to your payments, but the Social Security Administration needs to account for it in the case that a life change does impact you. So that's all we have for this Social Security Administration form, SSA-2-BK. If you want to go over this form in more depth, we've written a comprehensive article which you can find on our website. Simply go to teachmepersonalfinance.com, type in Form SSA-2, and our article should appear. If you like our articles, please subscribe to our newsletter. And if you like our YouTube videos, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. As always, if you have questions, comments, or concerns, please send me an email or post them in the comments section. Thank you.